The thing that I was really fascinated by, and always have been, is people, right? And how people work. When I was in college, I studied psychology and computer science. And one of the things that you learn when you study psychology is that there are all these parts of the brain which are geared just towards understanding people, right? Understanding language, how to communicate with each other, understanding facial expressions, emotions, processing. Yet when I looked out at the internet, right, in 2004, which is when I was getting started, you can find almost anything else that you wanted, right? You could find news, movies, music, reference materials. But the thing that mattered the most to people, which was other people and like understanding what's going on with them, just wasn't there, right? And I think what was going on was that all that other content was just out there, able to be indexed by search engines and other services. But in order to understand what's going on with people, you needed to build tools that made it so that they could express what was going on with themselves. I built the first version of Facebook because it's something that my friends and I wanted to use at Harvard, a directory and a way to connect with the other people around us. And I didn't think at all that it was going to be a company. I remember really clearly we were talking about how one day we thought that someone was going to build a community like this for the world, and that would be some company. But it clearly wasn't going to be us. I mean, it wasn't even an option that we considered that it might be us. I mean, we just weren't focused on building a company. Back then, we were just building something that we thought would be useful at our school. I always think that you should start with the problem that you're trying to solve in the world and not start with deciding that you want to build a company, right? I mean, the best companies that get built are things that are trying to drive some kind of social change, even if it's just local in one place. No more than starting out because you want to make a bunch of money or have a lot of people working for you or build some company in some way. So, I always think that this is kind of a perverse thing about Silicon Valley in a way, which is that, people decide often that they want to start a company before they even decide what they want to do. And that just feels really backwards to me. And, for anyone who's had the experience of actually building a company, you know that you go through some really hard things along the way. And I think part of what gets you through that is believing in what you're doing and knowing that what you're doing is really delivering a lot of value for people, and that's, I think, how the best companies end up getting made. One of the hardest parts for me was actually when Yahoo offered to buy the company for a lot of money. Because up until that point, that was this turning point in the company where before that, every day we'd just come in and kind of do what we thought was the right next thing to do, right? We'd open to more schools, we opened to high school and opened beyond schools and launched more photos because that's what seemed like the next thing that we needed to do to help people express themselves and understand more what was going on around them. But then, Yahoo came in with this really meaningful offer. We had 10 million people using the product at the time, right? So it wasn't as if it were obvious that we were gonna succeed far beyond that. And that was the first point where we really had to look at the future and say, wow, is what we're gonna build going to actually be so much more meaningful for this? And that caused a lot of interesting conversations in the company and with our investors. And at the end of that, Dustin and I just decided, no, we think that we can actually go connect more than just the 10 million people who are in schools. We can go beyond that and have this really be a successful thing. And we decided to go for it. But that was really stressful because a lot of people really thought that we should sell the company. I think the most important product feature that we ended up building for Facebook. And the traditional approach to growing and marketing is, you have a communications group or you have a marketing team and you buy ads. And, I think that there's sometimes there's a place for that, especially when you're trying to communicate something and get a message out. But if you're actually trying to grow a product, I think often the best levers for doing that are within the product themselves and getting people in your community who enjoy what you're doing to evangelize that to their friends and getting that to happen efficiently as possible. So, there's no magic in the growth group that we built that other people can't replicate. It's just being very rigorous with data, investing in data infrastructure, so that way you can process all these different experiments and learn what people are trying to tell you, and then go invest engineering and actually trying to grow the community, because I think that's the most important feature for a lot of networks. The product isn't that useful if you're not connected to other people when you're using it. So, helping you go from signing up for Facebook to connecting to the people that you care about most is probably one of the most important things that we can do. I started the company when I was 19, right? So I can't institutionally believe that experience is that important, right? Or else I would have a hard time reconciling myself, right, and the company. So, we invest in people who we think are just really talented, even if they haven't done that thing before. And that applies to people who are fresh out of university, as well as people like the CFO who took the company public, had not taken a company public before, right? And a lot of his background was in production, development at Genentech before. So just focus on really talented people. One of the things that I think we've done well is just given the people at the company a lot of opportunity, right? So it's not just me who started when I was 19 and now I'm running this big company. There were a number of people who joined who were people I did problem sets with at Harvard, or they dropped out of Stanford, or different programs, who have grown with the company over this long period of time. And one of the things that I'm the most proud of is we have about 12 different product groups at the company, and all of the people who are running them, with the exception of one, did not join the company running a product group or reporting to me.
That's amazing.
And the one exception is David Marcus, who was the CEO of a $50 billion public company. So, so I'm pretty happy that he's on board, and having him run a product group, I think, is a pretty big coup too. Literally, none of them started off reporting to me. They all start off in different roles. Some were engineers, some were data analysts, some were product managers, and they've all grown. So we have this 10-year roadmap. 3 of the big changes that we want to see in the world. And we're focused on 3 things. Connectivity, right? So getting everyone in the world on the internet. Right now, more than half the world is not on the internet, which is, I think a lot of people in Silicon Valley probably take this for granted, right? The internet, because it just is not uniformly available. And if we want to solve a lot of the big challenges of the world today, they're not problems that any one group of people or even one country can solve. They really involve coming together and giving everyone an opportunity to participate in solving them. So I think connecting everyone is really a key thing, which is going to be great for people around the world. The next one is AI. I think that's just gonna unlock so much potential in so many different domains. And we use it at Facebook for a lot of different things, for showing people content that they're gonna find more meaningful, for making sure that you connect with the people you actually care about on the service. But in a lot of ways, the work that we're doing on AI to push the fundamental state-of-the-art forward is exactly the same stuff that's going into systems that diagnose diseases better, right? Or find better drugs to treat people, or that other companies are using when they build self-driving cars. And these are things that are going to save lives, right? I get a little bit frustrated, I think, when people fearmonger about AI and how it could end up hurting people, because I think in many real ways around diseases, around driving more safely, this is going to save people's lives and push people forward. So that's a really big deal, I think, for the next 10 years. And then the next thing that I always think is going to make a big difference is every 10 or 15 years there's a new major computing platform that comes around that allows people to do completely different things than they could do before, right? So 20 years ago, most of us were using desktop computers. They're kind of clunky. We use them in work because it made our work more productive, but most people didn't use them for fun. Now we have phones, which help us connect with each other, and they're much more human devices. But there's going to be another platform after that. And I think that's going to be a virtual reality and augmented reality. And that, I think, is just going to help people, be more creative, experience what other people are feeling much more immersively than we even can through video and things like that today. So I'm really excited about that trend as well. I always think that the most important thing that entrepreneurs should do is pick something they care about, work on it, but don't actually commit to turning it into a company until it's working. And I think that if you look at the data of the very best companies that have gotten built, I actually think a tremendous % of them have been built that way, and not from people who decided up front that they wanted to start a company, because you just get locked into some local minimum a lot of the time. I think Peter was the person who told me this really pithy quote that in a world that's changing so quickly, the biggest risk you can take is not taking any risk. And I really think that that's true, right? I mean, a lot of people, I think that, whenever it comes to, whenever you get yourself into a position where you have to make some big shift in direction or do something, there are always people are going to point to the downside risks of that decision. And locally, they're maybe right? I mean, for any given decision that you're going to make, there's upside and downside. But in aggregate, if you are stagnant and you don't make those changes, then I think you're guaranteed to fail, right? And not catch up. So to some degree, I think it's really right that over time, the biggest risk that you can take is to not take any risks.